Hi, my name is Christina Kidwell, and this presentation is about the equity and the issues facing ESL students. Some of the problems that may face our ESL students in getting a fair education are that families may lack the confidence to ask questions or may not even know what questions to ask. Because there are so many language barriers, I know in my particular school, a lot of our parents and guardians still speak Spanish or whatever their native language may be. And so it just creates a barrier between the families and the schools when there isn't a common language. Uh, Parents are maybe a little bit afraid to come to the school and ask questions, and they're not even sure what questions to ask. Another problem that I found is that there is also perhaps leadership gaps in some of our schools because a lot of our teachers and administration are not ESL students themselves. So it just creates another barrier because there's not that connection that the administration and the teachers can feel for the students and know what they are going through in learning a new language. Research states that students should be tested in their native language until they are fluent. Schools are not capable of assessing students in that manner. So, for example, in my school, there are 22 different native languages spoken. And so it would be near impossible to administer tests in everyone's native language. Educators do not fully understand the family dynamics of the families that they are working with. I know in my case, when I went through my bachelor's program, I was not educated to educate students or ESL students. So therefore, research has shown that a lot of professional development needs to happen, and maybe at the bachelor level program, some more classes need to be dealt with on differentiation and different cultures and educating those types of students. And again, with the professional development, not enough training and programs for culture and diversity available to teachers and administrators. I know in my case, and then I found a lot of research in doing this presentation, that many teachers felt the same way, that they just kind of felt thrown into a school with high ESL and they weren't really sure how to teach them because it is a different type of teaching than teaching students that only have one language. ESL students may be labeled special needs before they are given the chance to learn. Because of language needs and lack of education on the teacher's part, many teachers may automatically go for special needs testing. They're not giving the students the time that they need to fully understand and fully learn the English language. Some of the causes that may be found are students are exposed to various content not only across state and school districts but within schools as well. Many in my case and what I have found are many of our ESL students move around a lot and common language is not used a lot in schools. I know in my school district there's 32 elementary schools and you go from one school to the next and things are being taught in a different way. And so what I found with research is that Common Core is helping out a lot with this issue, is that there will hopefully be better common language so to help those students that are moving around quite a bit. Classes are not as rigorous enough at the elementary level, therefore putting students behind for years to come. And that just means that the education gap just gets longer and longer or bigger and bigger as the years go by. Students continuously fall behind and fall more behind as they get older. Language inequality has also gone largely unnoticed by policymakers in the United States, and they're just not really seeing this as a problem that they need to deal with right now. It was once believed that in order to achieve equality in all schools, more resources were needed, and students cannot be expected to learn material that they have never been exposed to. and differences in learning opportunities. And that just means that these ESL students, they need hands-on real world experiences. They need to go on field trips. They need to not just be reading science from a science textbook. They need to be doing science experiments. When it comes to math, they shouldn't just be sitting and doing worksheets. They should be applying the math learning to real world experiences. And that will just help the connection between the objective of the lesson and then what they need to go and do out in the real world. It will just make that connection a whole lot easier. And also, using that high language vocabulary is also very much needed. That academic vocabulary, using the words like perimeter and area and condensation and evaporation, whatever words that the students are learning, make sure that they are using those words so it becomes part of everyday language. Prejudice also plays a part with both leaders and students. I think that everyone, and I believe, and then I also found in research that everyone has some sort of prejudice, and it's just about educating ourselves and educating others about some of the stereotypes that face different cultures. And maybe the most important is that ESL students face different challenges than other students do. I can only speak for the school that I work with in a very low income area, and we have 97% ESL students and 98% free and reduced lunch. And so our students do move around a lot. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of resources at home. And on top of everything else, they are learning a new language. And so they are facing a lot of different challenges than middle class students do. Possible solutions to this problem are settings that support differentiated learning, different centers set up, different ways of teaching, whether it's hands-on experience, kinesthetic, visual, whatever that may be. Flexible structures and resources that students are participating in high quality learning experiences. I know when I read this part of the research, I had to really take it to heart because I am very set in my ways and set a schedule, and this is the time for math, and this is the time for reading, and this is the time for science. But what I found with doing this research is that you need to be a little more flexible because it is important for ESL students to be talking. And so the discussion of any lesson is maybe the most important thing, the discussion that you're having with your class. And so if math runs a little bit longer and you don't get to science because you were having such a rich, deep conversation and your students were talking and they were using that high academic vocabulary, then that's okay. You just need to be a little more flexible in your structure. And successful approaches to new curriculum. Therefore, when a school does get a new curriculum, a lot of professional development needs to be had, maybe modeled lessons, practice teaching before you even present it to the class, and that will just help your teaching and your presentation of the new curriculum go even smoother. Classroom teachers should provide multiple creative opportunities to learn, achieve, and reflect on their own learning. That is also something that I really took to heart in this research, was reflecting on our own learning. I think that teachers get so caught up in their everyday list of things that they need to do that the reflection part is really, really important. Student-teacher relationships are an important part in working with ESL students. It's an important part in working with any student, but in particular an ESL student, because you want to build that relationship. You want them to be able to talk to you. You want them to be comfortable in the classroom setting. An organization of a classroom should allow for different learning styles, student needs, performance levels, and student interest. So that just kind of goes back to the differentiation. And if you have students that are really into the water cycle or cars, have some books or resources that they can look at and get more engaged in that topic. And how this affects leadership. Leadership will take direct responsibility for implementing new curriculum into a school, and that just goes back to having the professional development before teachers are even allowed to teach a lesson from a new curriculum. Leadership should assist everyone affected by a new learning approach, and that just means that leaders in the school should be there as an unbiased listener with any concerns or complaints that a teacher may have. And again, that common language is so important in any school for our ESL students when they go from grade to grade or from school to school. And here are my references, and thank you so much for listening to my presentation.